Okay, friends, what do you feel about feedback? Love it? List it. I'm Jen Whitmer, and I help teams and leaders solve conflict and personality clashes. And today, Sally Z, who is an amazing human, my soul sister, also my speaker coach, is joining us live to talk about feedback. And so I'm so glad you're here. She's here, so now we're just waiting for her to join. There we go. The technical things. Let's make sure that we're ready to go. Did I hit the wrong button? These are, I don't know. No, there we are. Yay!
Oh my gosh, my face is so close.
I know. It's like you're far away, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, here I am.
Adjusting, making it work.
Oh, there we go. Hello.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. My blinds. We're going to get some fun lines across my face, but this is great.
It's great. Oh, good. You have tea. I have my coffee. I still haven't finished yet. Have done one live today already. Here's live 2. And now I'm on. So, yeah. Ran a kid to school in between. So.
Wow. The light.
Today.
Here.
Well, you're doing your lighting. I'm going to set up our conversation. So Sally and I are going to talk about feedback. And I really wanted to bring Sally on to talk about, so this whole week we're doing this series on how to have hard conversations. And I knew I wanted Sally, and I had a couple ideas, and she was like, let's talk about feedback. And I was like, let's do it. Because both of us are kind of the people that don't actually love hard conversations. Like just by nature, we're like, I think I don't want that. And we've both learned some powerful lessons through them. So, Sally, why don't you tell us just first a little bit about who you are and how you came to the idea that feedback is worth it.
Yes.
Tell us.
Hello, everybody. Yes, my name is Sally. Sally Z is what I go by out in the world. It's a difficult last name. Nobody can hear it. They're like, Z, me, really, Okay, we're just going with Z. And as Jen mentioned, I am a speaker, and I empower big-hearted entrepreneurs, leaders, change makers to really leverage the power of speaking. And as a speaker coach, what is central to what I do is having some hard conversations and giving feedback on a very personal, very vulnerable thing. There's a reason why people avoid speaking, because it feels so risky, and we really question ourselves and question everything. Like, there's nothing like speaking to make you feel like a 7th grader again. Like you really have no idea what it is that you are doing or what you're talking about. And so it's such a gift to be able to be invited into a relationship where somebody is willing to let me in and offer insights and feedback. But I didn't always do it well. And so I've learned a lot about it. I myself, like getting feedback and giving feedback, they're very different things.
Completely. Let's just right there. Giving feedback is a different skill than receiving feedback. That's really, really important. Both of them can be challenging, but they're different skills.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to, it's such a humbling thing to after I've given feedback to my students, I like make sure that at the end of a course or at the end of working together, I'm like, okay, now it's your turn. You get to give me feedback.
That's the exact feeling. It's like, I'm going to do this.
What do you have to say?
Well, one of the things, Sally's talking about being a speaker coach, which there is nothing like speaking when you first start to make you feel like a 7th grader again. Living with a 6th grader, I see that. And this skill is something that all leaders have to do, and really in any relationship. So I was, one of my consulting clients is doing a bunch of planning, and there was a big kerfuffle, and it was about how to give feedback. it was like this feedback wasn't helpful and there was a bunch of confusion and all of that. So being able to give clear feedback and kind of get over this feeling, whatever we want to call that. I mean, awkward is probably the best, but I think it describes it well. To be able to get over that is this skill of having good relationships that are flourishing, that are meaningful, and especially in a work environment or a coaching situation, the work gets done. The work gets better. Like that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you just brought up about 12 things. I'm like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the key things that you just said was that, is it helpful? Mm. And it seems like such a no-brainer filter to use, but a lot of the times people give feedback that isn't helpful yet, right? It's just I'm having a reaction versus I have some coaching for you, essentially. I have some ideas for you, and seeing it as a co-creative process between you and the person that you're talking to, aka a conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Is a one-way, I've got some things for you to do, be better, right? And because we all know what, like, one of the filters I like to think about is that it needs to be honest and helpful.
Yes. Honest and helpful. Both of them. Yeah.
When I first started coaching, I was really caught up in wanting to prove myself as a coach.
Yeah.
And so I saw all the opportunities of working with people was like, I'm going to list the 30 things that you can do better. The way to say, see how good I am? Like it was an ego thing for me.
Yeah.
The ego is in the conversation. It just is. It can be damaging. And it's not just unhelpful. It can be so damaging.
Yes. Completely. And so I love that you brought that up. So I just want to do a quick, real fast little teaching on what the ego is. We're not talking about like ego, like I'm so amazing. The ego is actually another way to talk about our personalities. When our personalities are activated and in the way, not the good parts of our personalities, but when we get scared and our fears get activated, it's like, oh, this is what's happening. That's the ego we're talking about. And in the course, so if you're new here, I just launched a course yesterday called How to Have Hard Conversations, which is what this whole training series is about, to help you get some fleshing out of that. But in the course, I think 3 of the lessons, but there's a whole module. Let's just say, like, there's an entire module about you. Like, how do I get clear about what I want? How do I know when my personality is getting activated in this? And then what do I do about it? And how do we deal with the ego so we can allow that to relax? And then, oh, look, there's another person. and that is part of the skill we have to learn, is how do we get the ego out of the way? Yeah, it's so good.
It was a brutal moment. Luckily, I learned it quickly because I have a really strong sense of empathy. So I was just like, when I saw the impact of this experience, and this was a friend of mine.
Oh,
yeah, he wasn't just one of my speakers. He was a friend, and he knew me well enough that he's like as self-aware enough that he just kind of let it sit there for a moment. Sit there with the reality that I hadn't helped him. I hadn't offered him. I had some great ideas to share with him, but it wasn't offered in a helpful way. And so often we have something helpful to offer people, but we're not doing it in a way that actually is helpful.
Yes. Oh, how did you, so like when you go back to that moment of realizing what I did wasn't helpful, what did you feel? And then what did you want to do?
I felt super shame.
Oh,
like, oh. It took a while to recognize that I was trying to prove myself. Like it took some reflection to really think about why was I so focused on just here's what I think and here's what you need to, and like, you know, this sort of one way experience there. Took a while to figure that out. But once I did that, it just increased my level of humility.
Mm.
I actually don't have all the answers, and I don't have to have all the answers when I
Say
walk.
that word again. I don't have to.
I don't have to.
Yes.
In fact, if I believe that my speakers are, and I'm just putting it in my context, but if you're a leader, right? If I believe that my employees, if I believe that they have something valuable to offer this world,
Mm-hmm.
if I believe that there's something in them, then it's just my job to help pull that out and help get the things out of the way that are keeping them from moving to that place.
Yeah.
Very different mindset and approach than I have the answers. You just need to do what I do. Be more like me.
Oh, yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that. Well, what I love about what you said is one of the things I talk about all the time in hard conversations and conflict resolution, but in communication in general, we're trying to get to the same place. So communication on a big level is about creating shared meaning. That's what we want to do. But in a hard conversation, we need to create the shared meaning on the same team. So we're working together, like you're talking about that co-collaborative process. You have something to offer. I have something to offer. I want to help get things out of your way because we're on the same team and the problem's out there.
Yeah.
And that is a key piece of a posture place in having hard conversations. That's
Yeah.
tricky.
That shift of the problem isn't you, the problem is this other thing. And I have some thoughts on what it might be or what maybe is going on. But coming in with that mindset versus, you know, the posture of you are the problem and I have some thoughts on how you can fix yourself.
Oh, that just feels awesome to receive, doesn't it?
It's shocking how often that happens. It's truly, it's out there in social media and just how we approach people who are on different sides of all kinds of things. And so I feel like I've been on the receiving end of brutal feedback that was not helpful.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to process that and to get over that. But
still clearly a
back there
that we're poking there, just a little bit.
It's brutal, but which is why it's so important that you are doing this, Jen. It's so important that people step into this space where they're really thinking about how they approach hard conversations, because we can't avoid them. They are out. In fact, leaders, not just not avoiding them, but actively stepping into that space. I mean, I am doing what I am doing right now because I had my first boss was not afraid of hard conversations. And he, even though he's this really excellent speaker, and I was a brand new 25-year-old employee who had some experience in this, but he was like, Sally, I want you to give me feedback. I want you to, here's my script. When I go do it today, I want to hear your feedback. He invited it. Let's go there. And at the end of that experience, he said, okay, I want you to coach everybody.
I love it. I've never heard you tell that story.
Yeah. That was kind of and it was like, do I really give my boss some feedback here? But he invited it. And that was a huge opening for me.
Absolutely. Well, that's that second skill we were talking about. The first skill is giving helpful and honest feedback. And then the second skill is inviting and receiving feedback. And how do we do that? And that is what I often like to call the messy middle. When both of those things are working together well, it's not quite as messy, but there's still a back and forth of understanding. When those two things are not working well, so maybe the feedback isn't helpful, or maybe you haven't invited it in, that's when it gets really messy. And I think sometimes what we do is we're like, well, that's a mess, throw it out. Rather than the idea of, oh, that's a mess, but what can I pan for gold in here? And how do I protect this relationship? And
Ooh.
that component of receiving feedback is when it gets really hard. It's already challenging for someone to say, I mean, Sally has told me enough, you have to rehearse. And I'm like, I don't want to rehearse. And I'm like, oh, okay, I've invited the feedback. It's honest. It's helpful. Like, all of those things are good. That's already hard enough. But when it's a mess and the feedback isn't helpful, or you haven't invited it, or they haven't invited it, that's where we have to really work it out. And what we find is the strength at the end. So not only have we created these like, oh, this gold nugget actually really can help me, we have done something hard together and built something.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to full relationships. That leads to highly effective teams. That leads for us getting the work done that we want to get done.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to that co-collaboration piece. Has that energy to it. It's really incredible. So part of my background is, as I was an actor for a long time, and my husband's an improviser, and I was out working in schools for years, speaking to students. And within each of those situations, it is part of the expectation that we give feedback at the end of it. Right? You know, you're a theater person.
Yeah.
You do notes. And because it was just expected and a part of it, it helped lower the fear around it. It wasn't like we once a year and it builds up all the like, oh, time, you know? It's like, no, feedback all the time.
If I could, I mean, I could do a lot of things. If I got a magic wand and got to fix culture in the business world, one of the things that I would do is help managers give helpful feedback and do it more frequently. Yeah. This like performance review every 6 months is kind of crappy. It's too long. There's too long in between. When I was an educator, not only did we give feedback every day, in the sense of notes on homework or conversations, you know, that kind of stuff. There was, and even quarterly felt a little long, like it would, depending on how long your things were. But when we were really in the nitty gritty of kids who were struggling, and this I have taken with me and applied in all these other areas, is that we gave it a few weeks. Like, we're gonna give this 3 weeks and check in, and then we're gonna give it 3 more weeks and check in, and then we're gonna, like, there is something about that ongoing feedback that helps people. Like you said, it lowers the bar. It doesn't seem so ginormous. Also, it's not ginormous because things haven't built up.
Right.
All of that is so, it's just so important. Okay, that would be my magic wand wave of like more often.
Like, I would like a world that Jen Whitmer has magic wanded.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you are amazing, Jen. I really think that you're doing important work around this. It is so applicable in the everyday. You are such a gifted teacher and communicator. You bring so much joy into what you do. And we're talking about conflict, and you bring joy into conflict. I love that. Guys, I'd be like, there's no way in hell that I would take this course except it's with Jen.
Yeah. Well, one of my big business pillars, I've got 6 business pillars, but one of them is play and laughter are life essentials. And that makes hard things better. It just does. So even though I am also about, it is deep. I mean, this course isn't like everything you need to know about communication for forever, but it does give you the real skills. I mean, it has like 200 pages of or 200 phrases and scripts and words and things to say in it when you don't know what to say. So like there's depth in this. But it's also, hey guys, we can do this. It doesn't have to be so grippy. And I think that there are, if we think about the bell curve in statistics, that there are these outlier conversations that are, oh, you need help, like we need the police, or we need an attorney, or we need like those kinds of things. And the other outlier conversations where actually we didn't need anything, like we can just kind of do it on our own. But this middle bit where most of us are, if we get better at those, it just becomes less hard. Like because we feel confident. I'm like, oh, I actually know how to do this. I'm still a little uncomfortable, like don't get me wrong, but because I have the skills to do it, I don't feel that added layer of fear. Like it's uncomfortable, but I'm not as afraid.
Well, yeah, not as afraid, because here, I will ever not have my heart racing a little bit when I'm receiving feedback. Giving feedback now, because I do it all the time, and it's just a part of me.
Right, because you've skilled up and you practiced.
I skilled up. It wasn't always easy, but definitely I've got to really get self-aware and just set my ego aside when I'm receiving feedback and just be open. And because the truth is there's some feedback when you're taking feedback that is like, nope,
totally,
that's not cool. That we're just gonna, it's like that one Olympic judge, you're like, you are way off the mat.
Who's paying?
But most of us, right? Most of the time, there's something in there for us. The improviser mantra around feedback is a gift. And just remember that. I'm like, So also sometimes a Trojan horse.
Right. But I mean, back to that idea of when you can put your ego aside, because our ego is what tells us stories. Yeah. Our ego is what tells us the story. This means I'm terrible. This means whatever the after this means, I am. That's the story. And when we can put that aside and just look at that, that's objectivity. That's not removing ourselves from the equation, but that is, okay, how can I be ruthlessly self-honest and generously self-compassion? And that's where we can.
You're really talking about our sevens right now, aren't we?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, aren't we all talking about our sevens?
Huge way, like leaning into the 5 of like, interesting, curious,
interesting.
Step back from it a little bit and say, I heard that before.
And this piece of pain, this little poke won't last forever, because that's the fear of the Enneagram 7. So if you're new here, I'm also an Enneagram coach. And so I do a lot through an Enneagram lens, and 7s are terrified of fear. And so we think the fear is going to last forever. And that's why that avoiding conflict happens all the time, because I'm going to be stuck and trapped in the pain of this thing, rather than, oh, I can get curious about the feedback. Yeah, like, let's get it over with. Come on. I'm curious about the feedback, because 7s have a natural curiosity, but I won't be stuck here. I can really pause and think through this. And that's where the skills come in, like learning how to do that. Learning how. So, no, Sally.
Where Jen just magics things.
I know. Can I have a purple magic wand?
Yes.
Like with some glitter. I think that's what's required. I don't like a star on it. That's a little too bibbity bobbity boo, but a purple glitter would be great.
I'm imagining that there are sparkles that come out of it.
100%. 100%. Oh, friend, I am so glad that you joined me today, and just your wise advice about feedback. I think, the key thing that you said, that good feedback is helpful and honest. And that giving feedback is a different skill than receiving feedback, and we need both. And so thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. I am so glad that you were here. I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'm going to ask you another question. But if you are interested in how to have a hard conversation, the online course, it is available now. Today's Thursday, the what? The 4th? Look at the calendar, Jennifer. Yeah.
Like what month?
The 4th. And the 48-hour bonus expires tonight, which is a live group coaching call with me. So if you get the course today before midnight, you get on a live group coaching call with me, and I can help you answer those questions, get you started on the implementation before that performance review, before you ask for the raise, before the crazy cousin shows up at Thanksgiving. I can help you get those things sorted, and you can have that group coaching call. So I will put a link in the description, or it's a link in my bio. We're on Instagram. It's right there. So go to the link in my bio. You can grab the course today. And I just can't wait for people because in there, we're not specifically talking feedback, but everything that we talked about today will be in the course to help you. So I'm so glad that you were here, Sally. Tell us where people can find you and how you're helping people.
Awesome. Well, yes, you can find me here on Instagram, SallyZ_BeMoved. And just for a second was like, what is my handle?
On my LinkedIn Live this morning, I messed up saying the URL of where to get my course because there's dashes in there. And I'm like, I don't know.
And what I would say is if you are a speaker or want to become a speaker, I would invite you to come join me in my free private Facebook group where we are helping you level up to the next stage in your speaking. In other words, helping you really get serious and intentional about it so that you can leverage the power of speaking to grow your impact, your authority, and your revenue. So I'd love to welcome you over there. But let me end with this because really this is not about me at all. This is about Jen and this incredible course. I have been witness to Jen's, her own wisdom and insights and joy and just deep, deep clarity around the Enneagram and how to use it in such practical, important ways. I love, Jen, how you see people. You really see people so well. And that is a gift, that to feel seen, but also to just feel fully supported and acknowledged in who we are and how we can get better in the process of just living life and being in relationship with each other. I just think you are a gem. I'm so grateful that you invited me to be your coach because now we get to be friends.
Right? I'm like talking about you. I'm like, you're part of the fuel. So thank you for being fantastic. Well, I appreciate those very kind words. And thank you for your time this morning. And if you all have watched this and you're watching the replay and you've got more questions, pop them in the comments, send me a DM. We will come back and make sure we answer them. Have a fantastic Thursday and go grab How to Have Hard Conversations. Link in my bio.
Go get it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.